A moment. Welcome to.
You are live, Jeff.
We're live. Hi, it's Jeff Pulver, and if it's Monday, it's time for.
Ask the Oracle.
That's right, and we have a special guest oracle here, which we'll get to in a moment. But before we do, we should mention a few things. First of all, Amy Amonte, how has your week been?
Well, you can see we're in a different location.
Computer
Computer problems, but other than that, everything's good. Zane, our cat, is doing well.
Really
I
well.
have a show up in the town near us in Southampton, New York. That's going.
How's your show
well.
going?
And we're doing a book signing there next weekend, Sunday the 21st from 3 to 5. I can't remember the last time we did a book signing.
Right, it's number 4 North Main Street in Southampton, New York.
And I think
we'll be there, and rumor has it that even Jeff will be there. Maybe we'll do a live Ask the Oracles from MM Gallery on 4 North Main Street. And we got our book, Amy's art book, Wild Goddess Oracles, coming out in French this week. Yeah.
Everything's good. And we're excited to have our guest today, Madam Pamita. Hi.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to get together with you guys because I have been a huge fan of yours for decades. And now I get to meet my heroes.
Oh, you're very
that's so
sweet.
sweet. Thank you. And I love the work that you do. You bring such magical tools to people. You have an online store and you teach people rituals. And we were honing in today because I saw on your website, and we get this a lot as readers, questions about money, money issues. It's so complicated and multi-layered, and I'd love to talk to you about it. And Jeff knows about the new money, right, Jeff? The new crypto economy.
I do, and I want to make mention of our new format, because before we go to the conversation, we should mention that this is Ask the Oracles, but we are in season 2, and we continue to evolve. And we're taking Ask the Oracles literally by asking each other questions and engaging in conversation. And we're grateful to have an audience joining us from all over the world. If you're watching us, by the way, on YouTube or Facebook, if you'd like to get in the room here and come to us, you can just go to pulver.com and follow the Zoom links, and you could join and be in the chat, be inside the room, and see the other guests who are in our studio audience. But the format of our show is we are going to be speaking with each other, listening for generalities about questions that people like to have, topics people want more information about. But we're not going to be doing individual readings at this time with anybody. We're going to be talking about money, talking about passion, talking about really the whole ecosystem here. And we're here to you basically imagine the 4 of us are in a coffee house or literally on stage. You happen to be overhearing our conversation. So if you want to help drive it, direct it, you can. But otherwise, it's a private conversation amongst 4 oracles. And thank you for being part of that.
4 oracles who know that everybody who's watching is an oracle, and we're going to help you bring that out within yourself here on Ask the Oracles 2.0.
Yes.
Because we have such fabulous guests, and sometimes we don't get in depth with them, because we go right to questions. So this is an opportunity to really kind of share our wisdom, our experience of what we encountered, having done so many readings, having written books. Madam Pamita, what do you think of, everyone wants to know about love. It's always love, money, career, right?
Yeah, exactly. But money is an interesting one because, and bringing up cryptocurrency is a very interesting sort of digression that actually can teach us something about money. Because when we think about money, we think about all those $100 bills, bring me the Benjamins and all of that. But it's actually a piece of paper. We all agree that that piece of paper has value. What that piece of paper represents is your labor, your effort, your creativity, something that you offered, a service that you offered, or something that you did. And then you exchange it with someone else for their service, their product, their offer, whatever it is. So money isn't the dollar bills. Money isn't even the number in your bank account. It's an energy. It's energy that's being accumulated and spent, right? So when we start to think about money as energy, we start to think about it differently and really think about it magically. And Bitcoin and those things are purely energy, right? There's nothing you can hold on to, nothing tangible that you can hold on to with them. So they're very interesting to me. I don't have any Bitcoin or anything like that. My nephews do. I don't, but yeah, it's fascinating.
Jeff represents an eye towards the future in that area. Jeff, what do you think how that changes the energy? How the money system is changing?
I think what we've been seeing for the last 10 years is really the beginning of the future of where money can go, and really how value is transferred, and how other objects, not necessarily money, can actually transfer value too. And we're seeing the digitalization of everything, but specifically, the idea of being able to create something and then transfer it from one location to the other, assign value, and then in the world of crypto, there's the unfortunate reality is that in any gold rush, you're going to have people who make the money, which typically are the people who make the shovels and the picks, and you have many others who miss out or get greedy. And one of the first things we saw with the first waves of crypto is the greed come through, and people that are not necessarily there for the good of what it represents, but really represents all the things to look out for. And while that is being fleshed out, we are seeing the future come forward. And I do believe that it's inevitable, whether it's 3 years from now or 25 years from now, but every government on this planet will have a digital money policy. It's not a secret that some of the large countries have had working groups for almost 10 years figuring out their own digital dollar equivalent. And it's just how the monetary policy evolves in such a way so that the future happens while the present is there, and they come up with a progressive way to support both. It's a little scary almost for people who think that every day is predictable about change. Change is happening in front of us, and the digitalization of value and art and bringing that into money changes everything. So in terms of opportunity, for anyone who wished they were around the first stock markets, the dot-com era, this is more opportunity than anyone can handle. I think there's trillions of dollars to be represented. If the 1800s brought us millionaires, and the 1900s and the 20th century got us billionaires, going forward we will see trillionaires, and the trillionaires were going to happen because of this thing called cryptocurrency or digital currency. And I do hope that over time the name changes, because the legacy will be there, but what it represents is a future that is unbounded, and it's up to us to understand the basics so that we can all be part of it, and because that part of the future I think is unbounded and unwritten. And we can play, but to keep your head in the sand, even if you don't want to play, be aware of what's happening, because others are going to use it. And if people can accumulate value and wealth from it, they're going to. And one of my processes for manifestation of money is to visualize, is to actually think of your goal, right? Actually see it, write it down, say it, and then be witnessed. And it goes to Monty's quantum affirmations, and I there you go. So to me, that is that is the magic of success with this. Because when you visualize what you want, you will get it. Because if you take the other approach of being negative, not much happens. And so, but
you manifest what you're afraid of, or what
right,
you lack. I think talking about the macrocosm of the bigger picture in the world, and then bringing it back to the microcosm of us individually, how we limit ourselves, what our value system is. In astrology, we can see that in individual charts. When the second house.
Yes, we can. I'm just so pleased and proud to be part of Ask the Oracles 2.0, because I want people to know, when you're listening to Jeff Pulver talk about crypto, you're talking about somebody who was there from the day one and who has understood it since day one. Used to do conferences about crypto 10 years ago, was it? something like
I
that?
mean, I look, it was in 1996 that, at least as far as I remember, that in the Internet 1.0 days, that a few companies like Cybercash and DigiCash came together to represent digital payments. But they had some problem which Bitcoin solved, which was proof that if you have an asset on your computer, that you transferred it to my computer without you keeping a copy of it. Once we started, so where blockchain helps is within the with trust and proof of transfer of value. Um, and so it's, I believe it's inevitable. I mean, the same way that for years and years people have been playing online video games and creating adventure games where we accumulate trinkets. One of the biggest challenges and one of the inspirations for Bitcoin, frankly, was the fact that if the four of us were playing a game and during the game I want to sell Monty my gold sword, that even if that game allowed me to do so, and if I want to charge a fee for it, there was no in-game way to have transactions. And then games started to evolve with virtual worlds, which are now represented as metaverses, and people wanted to actually trade those accumulated trinkets for an exchange, and that became the early digital assets that were being traded. And that was literally the transfer of value, where next time Monty plays the role-playing game, he has my war chest, he has my superpowers, he has these accumulated treasures, which he normally would have to have played the game before in order to accumulate. And
Hey, Jeff, I want your superpowers. That sounds like a great deal. Madam Pamita, when you're doing a reading for someone, I mean, you and I do readings for people on a one-to-one basis. How do you advise people when you see that they have a block in their second house value system or their
Yeah, because we all have blocks and
no,
stuff.
everybody. I have Saturn and Virgo in the second house. Okay, for all you astrologers
Okay.
out there, and I have been homeless, right? Because it's everything in astrology has an arc. It has its positive expression in the extreme and its negative expression in the extreme. Saturn is where we all think stupid on occasion.
Well,
But I want to hear what she has to
Yes,
say.
I was just gonna say I have Saturn as an issue, Saturn and Virgo also. So I think everything comes from hard work. So when you look at a person's chart, you start to see their particular, very individual issues around money. But go ahead.
Well, I'm a magic practitioner. I teach magic, and so I start them with magic. And when I think about those ideas that we have, let's say we have, we're going to talk about these in a second.
So sweet.
But I know I have so many things. I have been such a fan for so. Oh my gosh, you've got yours.
We got them right here.
Jeff has them too.
These are out of print. How long have they been out of print? For a while now. You have to publish.
This one's still in print.
Oh, this one's still in print.
Version of that is out of print, but we got plenty of them if
But,
anybody
yeah,
wants.
Oh my gosh. Well, I cannot recommend these enough because these have been so helpful. Because if you don't know about, these are Monty and Amy's law of attraction little reminders, and you had a love one, you had a money one. Did you have other one too, or those two?
Just the love and that one's still in print, and it's
Oh
going.
my gosh.
Oh
Oh my gosh. Well, I have both of them. And this one, they have gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous art, which is always what attracted me to your stuff in the first place, is all the gorgeous art. And then on the back is an affirmation, right? So an affirmation is, to me, a spell. As we look at that as a spell. And if we're going to do a spell, my belief is if an affirmation creates the reality, why do we need magic? Why do we need candles? Why do we need oils? Why do we need these other things? It's because these are our spiritual allies that have no skin in the game and are supporting our intention, even if we get a little wobbly, right? So everybody comes up with an intention of like, I'm a millionaire, right? Let's say that's the affirmation, I'm a millionaire, or they take one from your deck, right? And they say whatever the affirmation is. And then we start, our rational brain comes in, our ego comes in, our fear comes in, and we go, but I can't be a millionaire. What would everyone think of me? They might judge me. Rich people are bad, or whatever. We go into some spin, and it's like we take a step forward and then we take a step backward. And so what magic is about in my opinion, is that we put our intention into that candle, into that, charm bag, into that altar, whatever we're creating. And it keeps going, even if we're a little wobbly. Even if we get a little wobbly, it keeps the intention going forward. That's why I love magic. That's why I love candle spells. That's why I love that. So when I teach someone, when someone's having a problem, we look to where the root of it is. What is the root of that emotion or that feeling that's blocking them? What are their notions about money, or notions about wealth, or notions about having security? And then we start to work on those, and then do a spell, because the spell, even if you back off from your spell will keep going. It will keep going. So, yeah.
Love
I
it.
totally agree. We have a lot of rituals and enchantments in all of our books, because they're simple, and you're doing it for yourself, and you're taking that time, that special time to do it and to reinforce what you want. But it's fun when people articulate what their issue is. For instance, they might feel like they're taken away from other people if they get more. It's once they say it or identify it, then it kind of diminishes the power of that, and you can bring in other powers.
We all have to remember we're coming out of the dark ages. And just like the attitude about sex is completely all over the map and wrong, the attitude about money is wrong also. I mean,
it's a lot of cultural conditioning.
There really is. In quantum affirmations, it's just like magic is actually where science and spirituality meet. And that's what I try and do with quantum affirmations, which is my theory about consciousness being the smallest particle. And that is a scientific fact about all the quantum physics is all based on particles. Light, they think, is the smallest one, which can be a wave and a particle. And in quantum affirmations, it's all about visualizing. And just like what you said, the first question is, what do you want? I know that sounds silly. Jeff, you were telling us before about the people that would cry when they couldn't come up with a passionist thing. That just shows an incredible conflict, right?
It's incredible conflict, and again, what do you want? Right? It seems obvious that you want you have a goal, but when you ask a person what do they want, and they don't know what they want, then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second. So, during the non-pandemic times, I have around the world for many years hosted passion-based networking events, particularly around breakfast. And instead of asking people to say what they do for a living or describe themselves in 5 words or less, I just ask people to state their name, share maybe where they're from, and share one thing they're passionate about. And inevitably, every once in a while, the conversation will come to a stop, and we're just handing a microphone from one person to another when a person says, I don't know what I'm passionate about. And occasionally people would start to cry, and I absolutely would then go over to the person and speak with them either at that moment or after the breakfast, and make sure they feel okay and understand, no pressure, it's okay. And because the room, when they were around people who were open to sharing their passions, they just felt so overwhelmed. And and so like when we want to help somebody, and you want to help someone reach a goal, right? So if someone says, I want to do something, and you ask that question, well, well, in my case, what are you passionate about, or what do you really want? And they don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's very hard to have a quantum affirmation be effective if people are not knowing what to do. And it's
Well, yeah.
I spend a lot of time working in the startup world, having startups, and if people are raising money, I will ask the person, what is the goal of the company, or how do you define success, or what are you looking for? It's just to understand the people and how dynamic they are. And if they say that, well, this is what we want, but we don't know how we're going to do it, either I have to take a leap of faith that they're going to figure it out, and they're not wandering, they're wondering how they're open to solutions, or they understand this is their calling and they will determine what it's going to be, but they need time to work it out. So it's that amazement and wonder compared, and being open to figuring out, which is magical, but being stumped by being asked, well, imagine you have a magic lamp, you have 3 questions you can have to be answered, and the genie asks you, well, what is your first wish? And if the person says, I don't know, that genie can't do too much.
I think people are traumatized also, whether it's from their upbringing, they might come from a lack, or they've lost their job and they're afraid they can't find something again. All the wounds that are piled onto people that they do have to clear out to gain new perspective. But we have a full moon coming up on Thursday, Madam Pamita. Maybe you could share something magical that people could do around, because the moon's in Taurus, so that's perfect to do a money ritual, right?
Conjunct Uranus, eccentricity, genius, and out of the blue craziness.
Oh my gosh.
Ritual.
And my natal moon is a Taurus moon.
And,
so you understand.
And it's an eclipse.
Yes, it's a lunar eclipse. So you're a coper. We know that. If you have a moon in Taurus, you're a coper.
Right. They'd rather cope than switch.
I'm surrounded by Tauruses too. I have a Taurus son, Taurus boyfriend, Taurus friend
God.
that works with me at work. There are Tauruses everywhere in my life. My Taurus cat. Everybody's Taurus.
You make things to sell as we do. I have Venus in Taurus. We love things. I love shopping. I love beautiful things. Sometimes there's a conflict with people with that. Or do they deserve to have it? Do they deserve to have the thing they desire?
Yeah. See, money is, anything that has power can create, I think, that internal conflict. Love creates that internal conflict, and connection, and family creates that internal conflict, and money can do the same too. As we think about like that Taurus moon and eclipses, and thinking about magic that you do in eclipses, some people view eclipses very negatively or fearfully, just like Mercury retrograde. You guys have been around long enough, and I have been around long enough. We remember when Mercury retrograde was no big deal. And then all of a sudden, it, like with the internet and, all the social media, all of a sudden it became like Chicken Little. The sky is falling every time there's Mercury retrograde, right?
People add it to their list of excuses. Is basically
exactly.
Right.
We just, back in the olden days, back in the 80s, we would just look at don't make any business deals at this time. You might have a breakdown of something, just deal with it. We were very sort of like, okay, expect something, it's going to take a little longer, right? Those things, not the sky is falling, right? So I think that with eclipses, there's a kind of, I'll say my opinion about eclipses is that it's like the 10 of Swords card in the tarot.
It's not that bad.
Well, here's my view on the 10 of Swords. The 10 of Swords is one chapter closing and a new chapter beginning, because we have in the Rider-Waite, we have that dawn coming up in the distance, right? So it's one of those cards that, depending on what the question is at hand, can be a negative or a positive. I don't always see that 10 of Swords as negative, right? If you have a terrible job that you hate and you want to get out of it, 10 of Swords is it's like freedom. You're closing the chapter. You're never going to have to go back to that job again. You can leave it behind and you can start something new. So
it's sort of Uranian.
You're a very positive person.
I am a very positive person. It's my California sunshine. That's how we are in California.
As somebody who was a gladiator in a past lifetime, having 10 swords arrayed against you is not exactly what you want to see, no matter whether it's sunrise or sunset.
Well, it comes back to self-care, right? We have to take care of ourselves and be aware of being drained or hurt.
Yeah. So how do we harness, my view is, how do we harness that energy of the eclipse, of the releasing and closing a chapter and beginning something new? Do we use the eclipse to bring forth the things that we've been in denial about, or the things that have been kept secret? Do we use the eclipse to bring those to light? Do we put something to bed and open up a new chapter of some kind? So I think of all of these energies as being things that we can harness to our benefit. It's just like a wave in the ocean, right? A wave in the ocean can knock you down, but a wave in the ocean you can get on a surfboard and you can ride that wave for a terrific, amazing, exhilarating ride. It's how you harness that energy. So you can take something that is seemingly harsh and hard and can be, sometimes, sad, maybe even, but if you can harness that energy, you can make it work for you. And it's the same thing with abundance and prosperity, right? we can have these feelings, but if we don't process those feelings that we have or work on what it is or release those notions, then we're going to stay in that like circling around the drain place. I think about manifestation of money as really being there's a certain sweet spot where you're almost kind of detached from you're excited about it, but you're a little detached from it. You're not clinging to that affirmation or clinging to that idea. When we have fear, which is fear, clinging is fear, you know. I think about the times when I've manifested money miracles have been times that I've been like, I need that thing. And that's about the emotion that I have around it. I need that, or that would be great. Maybe I feel a little positive excitement about it. Oh my gosh, that's going to come. I feel it in my bones that it's going to come. But I don't bring fear into the equation at all. You can't bring fear into the equation. So you have to work on that if that's something that's going on. So eclipse is a great time to release fears around money, to release hindering ideas around money. And particularly with a Taurus full moon, what could be better, right? To work on that over that time.
I'll mention that one of the best ways to experience what you're talking about is to actually experience the lunar eclipse. I've been fortunate several times to be in locations without light pollution, to look up and with my camera and my eyes experience because during a full moon, if you look at the night sky, you really don't see much because the power of that moon wipes out the ability for us to see stars, particularly even in locations which otherwise look like a planetarium. And the phase of when the moon starts to go into eclipse and the darkness starts to come, and ultimately when the moon turns red, and then that very moment where you have absolute darkness, as if and because the moon actually goes from being the brightest object in the sky to not, all the stars that were otherwise not viewable are now become seen. It's very thematic and represents a lot about how you can actually bring forward abundance, because we're staring at that abundance but we don't see it because the stars, there are over 500 billion stars when you look up, but when you look at the night sky with a full moon, you don't see that many. But as that eclipse is starting to happen, your ability to believe and see starts to come through, and the absolute beauty of the night sky shines with that beautiful red moon going through those phases, being reminiscent of you to learn to believe and to let go and understand that the stars are there. You just have to see them, and then they become visible, and then they slowly start to fade, but you still hold the memory that you saw them. And so never let go of your dreams, never let go of, and don't be afraid the stars are going to be seen, because you'll be seen. And when you were looking to bring forward, money mantras, I believe it's fear, greed, and disruption take us out of the rights, that FUD. We don't want FUD. We need to be open to what can happen and to believe in that it will be, and it will be. And so for me, one of the most magical moments of the year is to not only know that there's a lunar eclipse, but to be under one and to spend the time, in my case, photographing it and looking at the phases and realizing how spectacular and how magical it is. And unlike a solar eclipse where it's hurtful to look up, your eyes are just shining the moon dust and the cosmic dust of where you are. And it's just a beautiful setting and a very, very calming, very grounding, very relaxing moment. And if you want to do a meditation under the lunar eclipse, if you want to make your wishes, if you want to just think about where you're at, it's pure magic. I've never, until I experienced it under dark skies, I didn't appreciate what I've read about or saw on TV. But it is a purely beautiful moment in time to be alive, to just be there and then be reminded of all the greatness that what one can experience by just being present. And you learn to be calm and to let go. And magic does just happen. And just believe, when you believe in it, it just is there. And then it's like, wow.
Hey, Jeff, are you still doing the trips to Turks and Caicos to see things like that?
I will in 2022. I will. I have plans to do a summer camp in during full moon, the new moon of the end of June, which is our July new moon. So I'll be doing a camp under the night sky, because Middle Caicos is one of the few islands in the Caribbean which have dark skies that are world class, and would qualify for the International Dark Skies Association grading system. And it's literally a place where you look up and on a clear night, you see a planetarium. It's alive. And the entire dome of the universe is in front of you. And it's just awe inspiring. The sky behind me in my metaverse here, I took that on a clear night in Middle Caicos. And it's a magical place to be. So I take myself there, and I did in January 2019, I believe it was the last time I did a lunar eclipse, and it was just such a because as a photographer of the night sky, as while many people love the new moon, I'm not best friends with the new moon because the new moon takes away my ability to see stars, but looking up and seeing nothing, no stars, and then that moment that the new moon the moon is basically blocked and turns red, the entire sky turns on. For those minutes, it's magical moments of astrology, of astronomy, of astrology too. I'm sure there's a word for it, but it's like, oh my God, everything is just turned on and it's so flush.
Well, as a predictive astrologer, there's something in electronics called a step-up transformer, which is what the company does to send the electricity over long distances. Yep. And the eclipses are step-up transformers. So when all the aspects that are happening during an eclipse are amplified in your chart and in the world. So wow. The eclipse, we're getting close to the third Uranus, Saturn square Uranus, which is innovate or pay the price, which is one of the reasons we've changed the format here. We're innovating.
We don't want to pay the price.
And we don't want to pay the price. and that brings us back to money.
Money. I just picked a card from our Little Reminders Law of Attraction. So I get no doubt. No doubt. So that's, Madam Pamita, when you do a ritual and a spell, you have to take that moment to really believe it, to see it, to say it, to feel it, to have no doubt, because that really charges it in the best way. Well, we deal with self-esteem problems when it comes to money, you know, whether we deserve something or don't deserve something. You know, there's scarcity attitudes. We need new perspectives. And Jeff, what you're talking about, seeing the stars in a new way, we can change our perspective.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I do want to ask you though, when you're doing readings and, and we're feeling this abundance and we're seeing the stars, and the person you're talking to is yes, but what about this? Is like, it takes me out of that moment. Like, wait a second, we just got to this magic and they're pushing for more. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you handle someone who arguably is greedy somehow? They want more than what you're saying. They want, now they take that as a baseline and they're being pushy. Is it proper to tell them relax, or do you let them be pushy?
I think, you know, when somebody's like that, it's reflected in all areas of their life. Like we say, if somebody's cheap with love, they're usually cheap with money. If somebody's greedy with love or other things, you know, they tend to be greedy. I see a lot of obsession, you know, maybe about certain topics, about meeting the one or having more money or getting the perfect job. And that blocks everything, that blocks it off. Right? When you're trying to make magic, when you obsess.
I want to hear what Madam Pamita has to say
what
about that.
do you think about obsession?
Well, it's interesting because as you were talking about that, Jeff, I was thinking, gosh, I don't really have people with money that come and want more and more and more, and they're not satisfied. That doesn't seem to be a thing that I encounter very much.
Couple.
But thanks, I guess. But what I find is within love, people get greedy. Like they want to reach a certain end goal that they think is going to make them happy. And this is true with money and love, is that if I have that person, if I get married, if I have that job, if I have that thing, then I'll be happy. And we all know that is going to have a temporary hit, a dopamine hit, when you're in that hot romance and everything's hot and sexy. What does that last? A year or 2 years? And then you settle in, hopefully you settle into a nice... Are you guys hot and sexy for 36 years? You're miracles.
Well, look at her.
Well, you know, rightly so. Amy's hot and sexy. So yeah, of course she would be. So, so I see that like that there's like the desire for the thing to fill a need. And I go, okay, let's work on the heart space that has that feeling of lack that's looking out there for the fulfillment. And thinking, if I have the Gucci bag, if I have the Porsche, if I have the whatever, fancy this or that, that's going to bring me happiness. And it will bring happiness temporarily. But that Gucci bag is just going to be your purse in a minute. It's not going to be special. It's the excitement of acquiring the thing that certainly feels delightful. But if you're looking for that to make you feel whole, if you're looking for that to bring you a sense of peace in your heart, or that, then you're going to constantly be chasing that. And then your life ends up being a constant rat race and a chase where you're constantly looking for the next thing. So you have to work on that thing. So I encounter people more that are greedy about love. I want that person and I want them to marry me. And I'm like, okay, let's dial it back a bit and go step by step and enjoy every step of that process of the romance. Enjoy that first date, because you're never going to have another first date with that person again. Enjoy that early time in the relationship where you're feeling that excitement about seeing them. Do they like me? Do they not like me? Because you're not going to feel that when you've been married for 10 years. So don't rush to that altar thinking that that's going to be the solution. You need to enjoy every step of the way. Enjoy your success as you're building your success. Enjoy each moment and each step that you take. So the same thing can be said of money. Enjoy that little treat. If you don't have enough money to buy the Gucci bag, then enjoy the little treat that you buy for yourself at the coffee house. Enjoy the fancy little bonbon or the fancy coffee that costs $5. It's not the end of the world, but you can treat yourself in a way and enjoy that instead of going, gosh, I've got this $5 coffee, but what I really want is a Gucci bag. So I'm not going to enjoy this $5 coffee.
Yeah, Madam Pamita, that is actually my whole point when I talk to people about self-love. It's the little things that matter the most, right? And I truly believe that it's those things that we need for ourselves that we hold back from. And we don't have to share that with anybody. We just need to take the action to do it for ourselves, because that self-love comes in different forms. And I joked about this in the past, but I think it's true that if you want to know the best gift to give someone, one day I believe Amazon will have the ability to read your browser history, and you give Alexa or Amazon a $100 budget, and you may never tell anyone what you want, but it knows the object you keep on going back to, and whatever that is, no judgment, may you receive that gift with abundance, because clearly it's something you want, even if you'll never talk about it. And I think that's the kind of stuff where we actually can engage in practices, and that becomes, because when we learn to love ourselves and give ourselves the pieces that are missing that we just cannot articulate, but we just want, but in a positive way, I believe it gives us, it guides us. And it's, I've actually been around people too who want more love, right? They and your words are very calming, reassuring, and it works with me. And the challenge, of course, is that when the people you're talking to are trying to complete your sentences, but you're actually not saying what they're expecting, and just having them let you speak, because if they ask you a question, so they may not know the answer, but if you see something, it's I find it frustrating that I can't talk. So it's being allowed to flow with the answers is almost as being challenged and gated on that by your own clients gets challenging at times.
Well, fear is the destroyer. And that's why the first stage of the 5-stage process of quantum affirmations is, what do you want? Because usually, the ancients had a saying, if you know your question, you know your answer. Because if you drill down and you find out why you're asking what you're asking, and you find out that you really are not asking for what you really want. And with money, people are afraid of being judged for having it. They are. But you get some funny responses too. I once had a friend and I was saying, now visualize yourself having $1 million, because I forgot he was a billionaire. He said, well, can I wish for $1 billion? Yeah, sure, go right ahead. But it just showed me my own limitations.
Well, we were confronted with that. We happen to live in a very affluent community where everybody has huge houses and the best cars and the most expensive shops. And I know my nephews growing up here, it was confrontational, because they were middle class or didn't have that much money. in their households. So, you know, they were feeling less because of what was all around them. So that's lessons for all of us, right? Because there's always people that have more or more successful. And before we had the show, I picked a card from our tarot, which was the competition card, just to add to the theme. And competition is an issue, right? Who are you competing with, really? You know, do you want to be like them? Do they, because they have what you think you want? It's another issue, right?
Well, I had somebody once say to me, I really like your car. It's an Infinity, whatever, QX50. Too bad it doesn't have any prestige. And I thought to myself, what? I was like, I didn't get it because of that. I got it because I fit into it and I like the way it looks. And, you know, but I don't think that anybody realizes how different each person is. That's one of the beautiful things about astrology is everybody is so different. And you are the answer to your questions. That's really what it comes down to.
And we don't have to be like anyone else.
Right. And if you don't think you're the answer to your questions, and if you're not asking the questions, you ain't going to find out anything.
And, you know, talking about love and money, we want to make a living doing what we love, right?
We did it.
We did. And we encourage other people to do that too. And that also has fear involved. You know, do I deserve to do that? Is there a way, you know, I haven't been able to do it yet. Can I do it in the future? All those limits that we set upon ourselves. There's Zane. Came to say,
Baby. I'm a cat person.
Zane is on Ask the Oracles. Look at that. Wow.
Yeah, but I'm keeping him away from the keyboard. Well, he lived under this desk.
I just did a little mini workshop on cat magic, and all cats are descended from the African, all domestic cats are descended from the African wild cat. And Zane has the markings like the African wild cat. Yeah.
He is wild, that's for sure. I brought him on because I want to show you a miracle. This cat is.
He knows how to manifest. You know, filet mignon and the best shrimp and.
And cream.
My next life, I'm coming back as Amy and Monty's cat. I made that decision.
Line up because we're number one on that one.
Well, I mean, that goes to, we're talking about the law of attraction. What you put out comes back to you. You know, the golden rule. And you know, sometimes when people are obsessed with love, like you were talking about, they really want somebody to love them, but are they willing to put that love out? Because the more you give, really, the more you get. And I think it's true with money. We've never had a problem spending money on our careers, you know, on ways to expand, you know, what we love doing, our art. We never limited that. And it's always rewarded us greatly. So do you have that same experience?
One of my favorite little money spells that I love so much, and I teach my students and clients this, is to take 5 $1 bills and take them out into the wild and hide them someplace so that someone else finds them, so that someone else gets that delight of, wouldn't you like finding a $1 bill in a book or something, or, you know, underneath of something would be delightful, right? You'd be like, oh my gosh, I found a $1 bill, right? Exciting. And that action is like opening up. It just costs $5. That's not, you know, most people can afford $5. And you're spreading that delight in a very random act of kindness kind of way. And that opens up your heart. It makes you, the act of it, it's the delight of connecting to others randomly. You're never going to see the person that finds it. Hopefully you're not spying to see who, you know, you want to put it out there in a way that is very synchronous. You're inviting a synchronicity that someone's going to find that money. Put it in a little library, a little pub, you know, free library somewhere, or put it, you know, I've had clients tell me the funniest places, put it in a tree branch, you know, so that somebody looking at the tree is going to find it, or, you know, find it, put it in a playground so that a kid finds it, or whatever. So you find these opportunities to do that. And what it does is it opens up your heart space around money. When you do that, you feel like, I'm doing something good. I've made someone's day. I am so abundant that I can be generous with the world. And that generosity is a flow. Remember, energy is like water flowing through a pipe. You have to be open on both ends of that pipe or your water is not going to flow through. So it's not just the receiving of the money, which everyone focuses on. Oh, I receive, I'm abundant, I'm prosperous, right? That's the receiving. But it's also the other end of the pipe where you're letting the money flow out. Because if you are greedy and you are holding and you are fearful and you are miserly, your flow is going to get blocked up just as sure as a toilet gets blocked up or a pipe gets blocked up. And if you don't have that flow, then how can more flow to you, right? So you're going to become smaller and smaller and smaller and more fearful. So you have to have that open flow of that generosity, sharing with others, donating. It can be even, I said, what's the most challenging thing I can come up with on that other end of the pipe that I can be appreciative for something money flowing out? I said a parking ticket. A parking ticket is a challenge. I have found a way to overcome that challenge, right? Because everybody feels like, damn it, I got a parking ticket. They're $80 here in my house in Santa Monica. They're very expensive. I got a parking ticket, darn it. And that money is just money wasted. I could have had a nice dinner for that money, right? But here's what you do. Where's that money going to? Where do you want that money to flow to? I love my public library. I love the parks in my town. So I'm going to picture that $80 going to the parks and recreation. I'm going to picture that $80 going to clean up the beach. I'm going to picture that $80 going to support the libraries and bring new books in. Then I can be happy about that flow going out. Then I feel like my money is doing something good in the world and I don't get tight around that money, even with a parking ticket, even with a bill. A bill is easy. You go, well, I got the thing for it, but parking ticket, you didn't really get anything for it, but you can. You got the parks, you got the, and that's how I get into that space where I keep my prosperity pipe very, very open so that more can flow to me. So
I love the way your magic is very practical. And I think that's essential. It makes sense. I think that comes in terms of tipping, like you're a very generous tipper.
Well, yeah, because I imagine that these people need the money and they're going to pass it on. And there's a big story about, I think it was Winston Churchill who did something for someone and it saved someone's life and it came back to him later in life. I mean, there's all kinds of stories about that.
Making good karma.
Right?
I've waited tables in my life, so I'm always a good tipper.
Howard Johnson's. I live to tell the tale. Jeffrey, have you ever been a waiter? It's not a nice experience.
No, Jeff has never been a waiter.
But I believe in being generous and I do tip often. I believe in the karma that it generates and just the giving. And there are times when I've given bigger tips than I could necessarily afford to, but it felt like the right thing to do. And so, and I could feel that. So I'm hypersensitive to tipping, and I will give. Although I did have a life lesson once. So years ago, I was doing a conference in Helsinki, and and back then it was before the euro was and so there was it was in the Finnish local currency, and I had 18 people out for lunch in a park area. It was like a restaurant in the park, and several times after I signed, like 2 or 3 times after I signed the credit card and entered the tip, the waiter and then the maitre d' or his boss came over and said, "Are you sure about this tip? Are you sure about this tip?" And I said, "Of course I am." And but that should have been a sign, because apparently I gave like a $500 tip for a $250 meal and not realized it. But I was very happy in the end because it was like, okay, well, hopefully they can use that money for something, because I don't believe tipping ever was a mistake, and it was just really just to really share gratitude. And I think when it comes back to it, it's like, I'm grateful for the opportunity to help manifest magic and to be present and to really also just see what happens in front of us. And if we happen to be in a windfall of magic that's happening, that's for me a sign to be more generous. It's like like when good things are happening, I'm more incentivized to give. But I will also give when things are not well. I will give of myself. I will go to service. Yeah. Because I do believe that the karma will adjust and good things will happen. And as long as you hold out hope, and that's the thing, right? Is if we want to manifest, we need to believe. We need to allow. If I'm going to go to someone for advice, I have to believe that good things can happen, that I have to be open to receiving. It's like someone asks you for it. It's like if someone asks you a question and they reject your answer, it's like, wait a second, you're asking a question. You have to be open to hearing the answer that we're going to give you. And so,
Oh,
no, I'm saying so that from
me and Pamita are like, oh, come on.
so for me, it's like, if I am out there doing stuff, I have to be open to the good that will happen.
Yeah, because you've started what? You have over 400 startups you've invested in.
I've been over 450, and I believe in the human spirit. I believe in ingenuity. I believe that nothing's been figured out already, that we don't have all the answers, and that everyone has it's possible for anyone and everyone to become successful in their own way. And I believe it's a gift for the opportunity to invest in someone else's dream.
No, 100%. But in my experience, if I get to the point where I don't know something and I'm asking somebody for advice, I listen to what they say, because obviously I don't know the answer. So, but in my experience as a reader, a lot of times I'll tell people stuff that I know 1,000% is true, and they still won't do it.
Well, they're not ready. They're not ready.
They're not ready.
Speaking of
It's the law of readiness,
have
right?
any questions? Because we have like 10 minutes left.
Maybe. Are you asking about questions about what we're talking
From the
about?
chat? Is that what you're asking?
What we're talking
That has
about,
a life of its own, it
not
seems.
a specific situation where they're
Um,
not-
The hold on one second, I'm sorry. In the chat there have been some very general good questions. Would you like me to read one of them?
Yeah, I would just like to thank everybody for staying. I mean, we've had a whole bunch of people. I'm so gratified that we had such a nice audience.
And you know what? We have 25 more on live stream, so we're up to an audience in the 70s.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So it's really wonderful.
I just want to say, if anyone has any topics they'd like us to talk about in the future, I'll put it in the chat.
Right.
Oh, right, exactly.
Because we've got an oracle for that.
That's true. All right. So one of the questions that talking about money was, if you come into money right now at this time of the world, is there a direction that's better than others? And
To do with your money?
what to do with it? I mean, it's hard because I know we're all coming from different places. But if someone was going to invest it, I know Monty's been talking very hard about making sure our base is secure. So
John D. Rockefeller said, I think it was him, it might have been Henry Ford, but you save 10%, you give away 10%, and the rest you invest in what you're doing, in your passion.
okay, that's I think that's really cool. That hopefully will help the people who are wondering. And then there was another question about, and I guess it comes to our own self-worth, which is what we've been talking about in terms of how we take care of ourselves first. But is there a method to coming up for a price for something that you do? Like, I know I'm a photographer. So when I have to come up with prices for photography, I come to a price and then I discount it all the way down because I love everybody to take pictures of. But is there a method that you do for someone who's starting out trying to sell their services, that they could find a price? Is it research? Is it, intuition?
I think that's a good question for the cards, because you can sit there with your oracle, whether it's the tarot or
Love attraction.
and ask different, we use it for practical things like that all the time,
yeah.
and ask different price ranges, because it's hard to say in general. I'm an artist and I always have had to price my own things. I never really had a problem with that though.
Our art is so underpriced, it's crazy.
That's the problem.
But
What are you gonna say?
in real estate, they have priors where you look at what else is selling in your neighborhood for what. But it's an individual thing. What do you think you're worth? I personally think Amy's work is worth 10 times more than she sells it for.
I'll give you a good price.
Thank you.
The art world is so interesting and so fascinating in terms of like pricing and things. I just was listening to a book, audiobook about art fraud, which is, I think I must have been an art fraudster in a past life because I'm so fascinated with like people making fake paintings and copying.
There's a lot
Oh
of
my
great,
God, there's a great documentary.
there's so many, yeah, there's some great documentaries about it.
Yeah. But the art world in itself is it's almost like those NFTs and these virtual things where they create, it's like the dealers get a fake piece of art, but they want it to be real and everybody wants it to be real. So they all agree that it's real. I can't wait to see that Salvatore Mundi movie about the Lost Leonardo, I think it's called. I can't wait to see that one.
You said the NFT word. Take it away, Jeff.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up because I knew.
I'll just mention that I am teaching and what are NFTs and people who are artists and creators how to create NFTs. But in terms of putting value in something, right? That's part of an NFT stands for non-fungible token, and for some people it's been a boom for creativity. It's been a boom for creativity, particularly on blockchain. So there's some authenticity that the creator and that there's value being transferred. But it's also opened up the opportunity for many people to be creators, not just the famous artists, not just the famous designers, but now you're seeing in 2021 many other people that had hobbies and side jobs for doing photography, for doing things in the arts, are now coming forward. And there is going to be money transferred, value created by simply people being their true self and sharing their dream. And even I have a NFT collection and collections that I've been promoting. But it took me, for me, it's historically in the year 2007, I had a vision for the future. And I created a video that I shared live in front of a couple of thousand people on stage when I was on stage. It was there's an online world still around today called Second Life.
Really?
In the year 2007, I actually built an island in Second Life that was a conference center, and we called the conference center Pulveria. And it's a 1-minute video. You can still find it on YouTube, and I presented that. And I was searching for a name of an authentic name for my new collection of characters. And I decided, okay, that I'm going to be promoting the Jeff Pulver metaverse of Pulveria. And all my characters, they're from Pulveria. And the side story is after 14 years, because they were first discovered in the year 2007 in March. After 14 years due to global climate change in my metaverse, on our island, we're noticing the seas are rising. So thousands of the Pulverians are looking to be adopted and to be taken and to be sold, or at least to be adopted into other people's families. So I have a whole range of characters now available for adoption, and hopefully people will come forward and adopt a Pulverian. And they come in all shapes of sizes. We represent the entire spectrum of the rainbow, including colors that haven't been discovered yet. And so we're very open. And anyway, it's fun for me. So the NFTs represent that type of unbounded creativity where we can take something and make it our own, and there will be people who will support what we do. And that's not what I believe. And I think that's part of the magic of where the future does take us, that we can be creative, unbounded, and appreciated for who we are and what we represent.
Well, that's a great way to wrap up the show.
And I got for all of us a card. Practice doing your spell, practice changing your attitude, practice gaining new perspective,
practice figuring out what it is you want and why you want it.
That's right.
Well, we're going to talk more about this subject because it's just such an important thing. As Cyndi Lauper said, money changes everything.
Madam Pamita, where can people find you and find out all about your magic?
Well, if you go, Parlor of Wonders is my website. That's PARLOUR, because I'm fancy that way. Fancy.
I love that name.
So Parlor of Wonders is my website, my shop, and that's really the place that they can find me. They can find the candles that I make and the oils that I make, and also a ton of free resources teaching them about magic. I've got blog posts, videos, a podcast, all kinds of stuff, articles, how-to guides, all kinds of free information there. So if you're interested in doing magic, if you're interested in bringing in more prosperity or love or any of those things, you've got a free resource to teach you. So, yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being with us. I hope you'll come back. I love talking with you.
I need to come back because I need to tell you my Goddess Guide Me story, which I didn't get to tell.
Okay,
You
we'll
can tell
make
us
it-
in the after
We'll
party.
make it
Okay.
day. And thanks, Jeff. This was wonderful. I hope you all liked our new approach.
Yeah, if you like the new approach to Ask the Oracles, please tell your friends, because we want to have 3 and 4 and 5 screens. We want to take over the whole metaverse with Ask the Oracles.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Harry.
And we're
Thanks,
having
everybody,
a,
for joining us. And we'll see you next Monday.
Jeff saying,
but before next Monday, on next Sunday, November 21st in Southampton, in real life, there is a gallery show. Before we end it, can you give out those details again.
Jeff, so we're going to broadcast something from the gallery. That'll be fun.
yeah,
We could oh wow, we could broadcast it. We could just be there in real life and just be there.
right. And so
We could have questions. Come on. You got me and Harry coming too. It's going to be a party.
5 p.m.
3 to 5 p.m., 4 North Main Street, Southampton, New York, on the island that is long.
So if it's Mondays, it's time for.
Ask the Oracle.
See
Thank you
next-
guys. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Harry. Thank you all. Thanks for a great show today. And that's a wrap.
You're awesome.
Was.
Recording stopped.
Hey.
Well, that was fun.
It was so fun. Oh my gosh, you guys are the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I got to tell you, when I used to, long time ago, I used to have a little office where I would doing my reading.